In 2015, two very important things happened. One, a Kentucky county clerk, Kim Davis, refused to issue a marriage license to a gay couple. Because of that, she was jailed for 6 days and ordered to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages and legal fees. Also in 2015, the Supreme Court issued a verdict in the Obergefell versus Hodges case. The Supreme Court at that time said that gay marriage, homosexual marriage should be protected across the country, whether a state had existing laws that outlawed gay marriage or not, or even if a state had a line in their state constitution that said homosexual marriage would not be recognized. The Obergefell case overrode those things. It shouldn't have, because the word marriage doesn't appear anywhere in the Constitution, but that's a different conversation. That same clerk, Kim Davis, is now requesting formally that the Supreme Court overturn the Obergefell decision. It's been 10 years, and Justice Clarence Thomas is already on the record saying that he would be interested in reviewing that case for possible overturning it. Now, I was interested in this for a few years for a couple of different reasons, and it first came to attention to me when the leaked documents from Justice Samuel Alito's office were made public. Those documents that were stolen by someone, and I don't think we've ever found out exactly who did that. Documents stolen from Justice Samuel Alito's office and released to the public that said that the Supreme Court at that time was considering an overturn of Roe versus Wade, the national abortion law, or it was never a law, the national abortion decision from the Supreme Court that legalized abortion across the country. When that document was first released to the public, like every other Republican and conservative in the country, I was excited, because if they actually went through with it and overturned Roe v. Wade, then thousands or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of children would be saved from abortion, and that's not a small thing. But I was also excited because if they were willing to overturn Roe, maybe they would also overturn Obergefell. And while the overturning of Roe would save many lives, no question, the overturning of Obergefell could have very different ramifications for the federal government. And I've been thinking a lot about this over the last few years. And while I am not an attorney, I know some good attorneys. And if any of them or any of their enterprising colleagues in the field were interested in this, I think this is a great case. And it goes something like this. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I may muddle the words a bit. If the Supreme Court overturns Obergefell and says to the American people that the federal government has no role in marriage, well, if they overturn Obergefell, they'll say that it's up to the states to decide if a homosexual couple can marry. But, in my opinion, a good attorney could argue that overturning Obergefell removes the federal government entirely from marriage. And if they're successful in that, it would require changes to vast swaths of U.S. code, the federal laws that are on the books. Hundreds of thousands of pages would have to be reviewed, and every mention of the word marriage or wife or husband or spouse, possibly even dependent, all of these lines of code would have to be rewritten or removed entirely, because the Supreme Court says the federal government is out of the marriage business. Now, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how that works. But it's my opinion that overturning Obergefell would remove the federal government entirely from your private life when it comes to inheritance, when it comes to, in many ways, the way that you're taxed. I don't know. Again, I'm just one guy. I'm not a lawyer, certainly not an expert in U.S. tax code, but I know that much of the U.S. code that has to do with taxation is heavily dependent on marriage, children, spouse, husband, wife, all those things, inheritances, and all of that stuff has to do with your family. And it is just this one person's opinion that the overturning of Obergefell, should it happen, and I think that it should, it could lead to massive changes in the way the federal government operates. And I am 100% on board with that.